Hey listeners, Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network, and I want to take just a quick moment to tell you about another show on our podcast network that I know you'll love. In Your Element, hosted by Brendan Henkel and Daniela Norden, is a podcast bridging the gap between leadership and real talk in the dynamic world of higher ed. Every episode is a deep dive into the practical side of working in higher ed, featuring real-world tips, best practices, and use cases from Element 451 users. Join our hosts as they bring on savvy IT leaders, visionary college presidents, and leading voices in the field to share their experiences and insights. From the challenges to the triumphs of higher ed, In Your Element is your source for candid discussions, innovative strategies, and the impactful use of technology, especially AI, in personalizing the student journey. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or by searching for In Your Element wherever you get your podcasts.
That's what kind of got me questioning, how can that be? How can, yes, stats are going to waver back and forth. So I started digging deeper into the sample size and the methodology, and I think I may have some answers for that one. But did that grab you at all, that more people employed for longer went up, but the overall number of full-time employees didn't?
Yeah, that's definitely not something you'd expect to see, but I think the answer in maybe that more unexpected result lies in the methodology of the report and just the variability that comes with that particular methodology. So, what did you find when you were digging into how this report and this survey was conducted?
Welcome to the Edu Data Podcast, a podcast that serves as your weekly guide to the data driving higher education. We are your hosts. I'm Jamie Boggs.
And I'm Timothy Davis. Join us every Friday for weekly breakdowns of the most important data, trends, and topics in higher education.
The Edu Data Podcast is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Edu Data Podcast. I'm Timothy Davis, joined by Mr. Jamie Boggs. Hey, Jamie, how's it going?
Good, Timothy. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Excited today to talk about the Online College Students Report of 2024 from Education Dynamics. They have published a number of reports about online college students since 2006, 2007.
Yeah,
so
they've
been at this a while.
To be cranking them out.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're excited to dive into this today, and I think we're going to specifically focus on some of the employment statistics that stuck out. So do you want to kind of introduce that and talk about what really stuck out to you about this latest report?
Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff in there, and you sent this to me a month or so ago, and I just finally got to dig into it a little bit. But as I was looking through the stats and the visualizations, I got to the employment section, and I was just surprised at the percentage of full-time employees that are going to school online. I've always known it was a lot of people, but to see that it's up around 60% of online students are working full-time, and that just seemed like a lot to me. So I dug a little deeper and found that should not have been surprising, because that is one of the few statistics you and I have looked at that's been consistent over time after doing some research and looking back at it.
Right, yeah. So the advantage, again, of having, multiple reports, yearly reports, is that you can kind of go back in time and look at how statistics have changed. And we even looked before COVID, that of the folks that were online, and I believe this report is looking at folks that are fully online or partially online,
right.
So just taking online courses in some form of modality, that statistic has remained the same.
Yeah, and we did a previous episode about just online and distance education and how it's increased by 90% since pre-COVID. So a lot more people are online, so you would expect to see a big change in all the statistics shuffled in one way or another. I think this one really could have gone either way, with more traditional age students taking online classes due to a pandemic. I could have seen the employment rate dropping, or I could have seen, more people are working full time because they have to now and can do so from home. So of course they're working full time. I could have seen it changing completely. So we looked at it. First, I looked back a year, and in the last year, virtually no change. 58% this year is for this year's survey was working full time and 21% part time. Last year was 59% full time and 21% part time. But then we went and looked back at 2019, so 5 years ago, the full time number 59%, almost exactly what it's been the last 2 years, and part time wasn't that much different at 18. So 5 years later, we've been through a pandemic, recessions, I don't know, a lot of crazy things in our country and in our education system, and we're at the same place with statistics, and that's more mind-blowing than a change to me.
Where there has been a little bit of shifting is, we were talking about the totals there across those years, in the difference between folks pursuing an undergrad and a graduate program. We've seen a little bit of shift. In 2018, we were looking at 0.51 for undergrad, or 51% for undergrad, and 70% for graduate. Now in 2022, we're seeing the same for undergraduate, but about 5 percentage point drop for graduates, so down to 65%.
See, and I would have, if you just told me to guess based on a pandemic, I would have said that undergraduate went up, but it hasn't changed that much of those that are participating. And there was another piece that asked, and they didn't capture this in 2019. I wish they would have, but they asked, how many years have you been employed full time? And in 2023 survey, it was 13% of those have been employed for 10 years or more. And fast forward to this year, and that's 27%. So that has more than doubled. And that's what kind of got me questioning, how can that be? Yes, stats are going to waver back and forth. So I started digging deeper into the sample size and the methodology, and I think I may have some answers for that one. But did that grab you at all, that more people employed for longer went up, but the overall number of full-time employees didn't?
Yeah, that's definitely not something you'd expect to see, but I think the answer in maybe that more unexpected result lies in the methodology of the report and just the variability that comes with that particular methodology. So, what did you find when you were digging into how this report and this survey was conducted?
Yeah, so first I went back and tried to look at the percentages of students that were online. We talked about it going up, and in 2019, there was 28 million students enrolled in higher ed, and just about 9 million of those were online. We've seen a decrease in overall numbers, but an increase in online learning, to where there's about 13 million learning online now. So that's a big number of people, and that is a big percentage of the population. However, the sample sizes for these studies, in 2019, it was 1,500, which is a small number, and the last 2 years, it's been 3,000 and 3,011 respectively. I know that most studies say let's as long as we can have a sample bigger than 100, we're okay. But when you look at these numbers, 13 million people, and you're surveying 3,000, that's less than 0.02% of the individuals that are enrolled in online education. I have a hard time believing that's a representative sample, and that it is that the study may struggle with reliability a bit. Not only is the sample size small, but the people they're surveying are not necessarily in school. They could be planning to go to school online or recently went to school online. So they don't break down the numbers of which classification people fall into, but you may just be looking at a few hundred people that are actually enrolled, working full-time or not. So there should be a lot of variability. It makes it even more shocking that the numbers are similar year to year, which may hint that it is reliable, right?
Hey there, it's Jamie and Timothy from the Edu Data Podcast, and we want to personally invite you to the Engage Summit this summer in Raleigh, North Carolina. The theme of the conference is AI Got You.
We're not just talking theories. This conference is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your institution. By the end, you won't just get AI, you'll be ready to lead your campus through an AI transformation. It's for everyone who wants to use AI to level up everything you're doing. Whether your focus is to recruit or retain, the summit offers a platform to learn, network, and bring back actionable insights to enhance your student engagement strategies.
I hope you'll join us and some of our favorite Enrollify creators like Jamie Hunt, Dustin Ramsdell, and Artist Cadu in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th. Use the discount code Enrollify50 and you can register for just $99. You do not want to miss this, so join us at the Engage Summit this June.
Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. Can't wait to see you there. Maybe. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, yeah.
So let's break down kind of what it means to have a representative sample size. Right? So when we're talking about getting data about a particular population of people, like online students, right? It's probably impossible to survey every single one of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not feasible, specifically given a fixed amount of time. And so we try to find a sample of that population that can be representative of it, right? But in order to have a valid sort of representation, the sample needs to eliminate as many biases as possible. And that also is very difficult to do, because how do you find those surveyors? How do you prompt them to take the survey? Do you pay them all? Because that can get expensive. So again, surveys are hard. And getting a truly representative sample size is hard. But one of the things that you look for in finding a representative sample is consistency over time, which makes it so interesting to see. But to also kind of pick out what you were saying about the difference in student types, one of the methodologies of this paper this survey was to find surveyors from kind of a clearinghouse, effectively, right? So it appears that the surveyors were found through a survey database. What was it called specifically?
Yeah, so the participants were invited to participate in this from a United States nationwide online research panel. So people who had decided to participate in research, which has its own type of self-selection bias. But yeah, so it's a group of people waiting to be surveyed.
Right. So yeah, like the willingness to be surveyed is a maybe a small bias, but at least some bias in and of itself. And basically, how these services work is like you can sign up and tell a little bit about yourself, and if you kind of match with a surveyor or a surveyor matches you based on the segment audience that they're looking for, then they'll invite you to take the survey. Then, of course, of all the people invited, only a percentage are going to complete the survey. So again, just the difficulty of surveys.
Yeah, it's tough. And I don't remember if you mentioned it off the air. You talked about it since we started recording, but the change in fully online participants in the survey jumped over time as well, which you would think, again, would change. What were those numbers again?
Yeah, I was looking at the 2023 report, and it showed a 90% rise in the population of fully or exclusively online or distance format learners between 2017 and 2022. And at 2022, we sit at 30% of college students study exclusively in a distance format, according to, the NCES data center.
Yeah, so we're capturing students that are both part-time students, or maybe full-time students that are part-time online, or part-time online students in addition to full-time online students. But the number in full-time online students is almost doubled over the course of the survey, and yet the outcomes didn't change.
Yeah, so again, a very interesting statistical anomaly there, or statistical finding.
Yeah, and that's what I wonder. You used the word anomaly, and I wonder specifically, I talked about the percentage of people who had worked 10 years or more more than doubling. was that an anomaly? I would love to look at future years of that as they continue to gather that data. Like I said, that wasn't available back at the 5-year mark, but they are capturing that yearly now to see if that was an anomaly and to see if these stats persist. Because regardless of what I think about the sample size, if you continue to get results, then that's kind of the definition of reliable, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So regardless, I think I expect my whole purpose of bringing this forward was my absolute shock that a number stayed the same through a pandemic. And I just felt like people needed to know that there are things out there that as much as you think everything was shaken up, there are industries out there are practices out there that have remained stable throughout. And we're all in it together of still trying to adjust for what's going to happen in the next few years, which we've talked about on previous episodes. But there are those pieces of stability out there that we can kind of cling to. So today we're bringing you a little nerdiness and a lot of hope.
Absolutely. Yeah, the industry for online is definitely growing, and I think that was kind of the takeaway from Education Dynamics as well, who authored the report, is that like this industry is there. I was looking back at the 2019 report. They were talking about growth in the industry, and one of the concerns they raised pre-COVID was, does this industry, or does this kind of niche in this market have room to grow given the sort of established for-profit online players, and then now these traditional nonprofit or traditional legacy institutions entering the space, taking some market share? Is there space for any late entrants? And in 2024, yeah, there absolutely is. The market of students who are interested in online is definitely growing.
It is, and it probably will continue to do so. And if it doesn't, if that number stays the same, even when it should change, we'll be here to tell you about it. Before we end the episode, Timothy, I'd like to just plug our own work. We did a webinar recently about using AI for data democratization for the Enrollify network, and I think people can still access that recording. But that was a lot of fun of sharing the different ways that AI can support us in all speaking data languages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this would be a great use case, especially since we've got year-over-year data to take to ChatGPT or another platform that can use AI to analyze data and see what it comes up with, see what its analysis yields. So yeah, definitely check out that webinar if you haven't. We covered how you can basically democratize access and usage of your data on campus, or any data that you source from reports or surveys or clearinghouses, to perform your own data analysis. You as a professional who's maybe not focused on data or does not have a deep data skill set, how AI is transforming the way we can access and use data.
It makes us all have access to tools that make us look a lot smarter than we may be, but also help us to produce in ways that we couldn't before. So I joke about it, but it's all good stuff. It's all productive to help us be better and to better serve students in the industry.
Absolutely. So yeah, please check out our webinar if you haven't. I think you can find that on the Enrollify website, and under the webinars tab, you can find the pre-recorded ones, stuff that's already occurred. So definitely check that out.
And while you're there, make sure you check out some of the other podcasts on the Enrollify network, all kinds of good stuff across the higher ed space, whether it is data, AI, or just topical conversations from various parts of campus. So make sure you check those out, and we will be back next time. For Timothy Davis, I'm Jamie Boggs. This has been the Edu Data Podcast.
The Edu Data Podcast is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like the other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month. We've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Artis Cadu, Dustin Ramsdale, Jeremy Tiers, and so many of your other favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.